All right. Shalom, family. It's your brother Kanaiba coming at you once again with this video titled Ecclesiasticus chapter 2, part 1. All right. So, of course, looking at the title, this video series is going to be over Ecclesiasticus chapter 2. And I'm breaking it up into, I believe I'm going to break it up into 2 parts. Okay, it's about 18 verses in the chapter, so we'll probably do 9 verses in each part. All right. But this particular chapter is one of my favorite, or if not my favorite chapter in the entire Bible. Okay, and there's a reason for that. You know, this particular chapter holds a special place in my heart, you know, not to sound too mushy. But the reason I say that is because when I first came into the truth, you know, the brother that actually introduced the truth to me, this is actually the first chapter that he actually went over with me. Okay, he went over it in full, right? And, you know, it just kind of stuck with me. Okay, so, and even to this day, when, you know, maybe it's a new fruit that I'm teaching, you know, I make it a point to actually go over this chapter, because this is actually it's a good starter chapter for anybody who's new to this walk. Okay, because a lot of times, you know, once we, you know, start on this walk, a lot of times we're under the impression that things are going to get a lot better, but it's not going to be a cakewalk into the kingdom. Okay, there's not going to be a red carpet rolled out for us to walk straight into the kingdom untouched, so to speak. All right, you know, there's going to be temptation. All right, your faith is going to be tried. All right, just like gold is tried in the fire, and it's only to perfect you. All right, so and we're going to go over all of those verses, but you know, that's why this is actually a good, I like to call it a starter chapter. All right, to put things in its proper perspective for people whom may be new to the truth and new to this walk. All right, so without further ado, let's actually get into the chapter and let's go over the verses. All right, so opening up, this is Ecclesiasticus chapter 2 and verse 1, and it reads, "My son, if thou come to serve the Lord, prepare thy soul for temptation." All right, so that's what I said a few minutes ago, you know, opening up the video. I told you when you first, you know, embrace this walk, okay, when you start your journey in this truth, what's going to happen is there's going to be temptation there. Okay, Satan is there and he's waiting. All right. You know, like I said before, you know, people may be under the impression that things are now going to get easier, but that's not necessarily the case. Okay. Your faith is going to be tried. Okay. It's Satan's job to do, you know, whatever he can, you know, to get you off of this walk, to get you off of this path. Okay. The straight and narrow path that you have to continue on to make it to the kingdom. He wants to get you off of that path. Okay. So now, with that being said, let's move on to verse 2. And it reads, it says, "Set thy heart aright." Now, of course, in certain contexts in the Bible, the heart is dealing with the mind. So when it says set thy heart aright, it means get your mind right. You have to prepare your mind. All right. Then it says, and constantly endure. Now, what does that mean? Constantly endure what? Well, you just refer back up to verse 1. You have to constantly endure temptation. Okay, that's what I meant. Temptation is going to be there, okay, to try your faith, as we're going to see in the next verses. Okay, but the Bible tells us that we have to constantly endure temptation. All right, with that being said, let's get some precepts. Let's take a look at this. This is the book of James, chapter 1 and verse 12. And it reads, now watch closely. Blessed is the man that endureth temptation. Okay, now, again, this is the perfect precept for what we just read in Sirach, or Ecclesiasticus, chapter 2. It says, blessed is the man that endureth temptation. For when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life. Okay, this is why you want to endure temptation. You want to overcome whatever temptation is thrown your way, so you can receive that crown of life. All right. So it goes on to say what? Which the Lord hath promised to them that love him. So now, what is this showing us? Okay. It's showing us that part of the way that you show love towards the Most High is by you fighting and enduring temptation. Okay, that's why that's there. Okay, this is not talked about enough, but when you actually endure temptation, when you actually fight, I'm not saying that you're going to win every battle, but the fact that you're fighting shows your love for the Most High. Okay, you have people out there that's not fighting at all. Okay, they don't care. That's most of the world. Okay, and that's 2/3 of our people, 2/3 of Israelites. They just don't care. They're not fighting at all because they truly don't love the Most High. All right, they may say it with their mouth. Okay, they have the lip service, but when it comes to their actions, the actions don't line up with their words. Okay, but not losing the thought, the beginning of the verse says, blessed is the man that endureth temptation. Okay, so what did we just read in Ecclesiasticus chapter 2 and verse 2? It said, and constantly endure. It will constantly endure what? Temptation. Okay, so the precept is what? James 1 and 12. It says, blessed is the man that endureth temptation. Okay, this is why you have to get your mind right so you can constantly endure temptation. You expect it to be there. All right, so you can prepare. And so you can constantly endure that temptation so the Lord will bless you with what? That crown of life at the end. Okay, let's get some more precepts. This is 1 Peter chapter 1 and verse 6. Now, the audience that he's writing to, of course, are the strangers, the Israelite strangers that are scattered throughout different places. Okay, and you know this because when you look at verse 2, it talks about how these strangers are the elect according to the foreknowledge of the Most High. Okay. The elect, as we know, are the children of Israel. All right, so this is who Peter is writing to. Okay, now let's look at verse 6, and it reads, wherein ye greatly rejoice, though now for a season, if need be, now watch closely, ye are in heaviness through manifold temptations. Okay, so these scattered strangers, these scattered Israelites, they have heaviness because they're going through manifold temptations. All right, now let's see what Peter says about these manifold temptations that these Israelite strangers are going through. Let's look at verse 7, and it reads, that the trial of your faith, being much more precious than of gold that perisheth. So these temptations are a trial of your faith. And Peter referred to this trial of your faith as being more precious than gold. Okay, because this is something you have to go through for your perfection. The same way gold is perfected through the fire, we are perfected through the fire of our trials, of our temptations. Okay? Now the verse goes on to say what? Though it be tried with fire, might be found unto praise and honor and glory at the appearing of Yahushua Hamashiach. Okay, so you actually going through these things, going through that temptation and enduring that temptation. At the end of that is going to be found praise, honor, and glory. Okay, what we already read, that if you endure that temptation, what are you going to receive? You're going to receive what? That crown of life. Okay, that's that praise, that honor, and that glory that you'll receive at Yahushua's return. You just have to endure the temptation. All right. So now let's go back to Ecclesiasticus chapter 2. Let's pick up where we left off at. Now this is verse 3, and it reads, it says, cleave unto him and depart not away, that thou mayest be increased at thy last end. All right, so now the question is, how do you cleave unto him? How do you cleave unto the Most High? Okay, let's get the precept. Let's take a look at this. This is Ecclesiasticus chapter 25 and verse 12. And it reads, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of his love. Now watch closely. And faith is the beginning of cleaving unto him. All right. So what did we already read in Ecclesiasticus chapter 2 and verse 3? It said, cleave unto him. So we were trying to find out, how do you cleave unto the Most High? Well, Ecclesiasticus chapter 25 and verse 12 tells us how you do that. It's by faith. Faith is the beginning of cleaving unto the Most High. Okay? Now, why is this important? What do we already read in 1 Peter chapter 1? 1 Peter chapter 1 told us that the trial of our faith is more precious than gold that perisheth. Okay, why is that? Well, we just saw that faith is the beginning of cleaving to the Most High. All right, when you have that faith during your trials and tribulations, when you endure temptation through faith, that just shows that you're cleaving unto the Most High when you're going through these things. Okay, so now let's go back to Ecclesiasticus chapter 2 and let's pick back up where we left off at. All right. So this is Ecclesiasticus chapter 2, and let's read verse 3 again. And it reads, cleave unto him and depart not away. Now watch this, that thou mayest be increased at thy last end. Now what is an excellent example of this? It's the story of Job. Okay, when you look at everything that Job went through, everything that he lost, from material possessions to family members to health, he was increased at the last. Okay, he endured that temptation. He cleaved unto the Most High. Even his own wife wanted him to go off and curse the Most High, but he didn't do it. He cleaved unto the Most High through faith. And at the end, he got everything back that he lost and then some. Okay, so Job is a perfect example of this verse. All right, let's move on to verse 4. And it reads, whatsoever is brought upon thee, take cheerfully, and be patient when thou art changed to a low estate. So looking at the beginning of the verse, it says, whatsoever is brought upon thee, take cheerfully. Now, why is that? Why is this important? To take it cheerfully no matter what is brought upon you. Let's get some precepts. Let's take a look at this. This is the book of James, chapter 1 and verse 2. And it reads, it says, my brethren, now watch closely, count it all joy when ye fall into diverse temptations. Now, of course, why is this important? We just read in Ecclesiasticus chapter 2 and verse 4 that whatsoever is brought upon thee, you're supposed to take cheerfully. Well, James is saying the same thing. He said, count it all joy when ye fall into diverse temptations. Now he's going to explain why. Verse 3, knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience. Okay, so you're supposed to be joyful no matter what's brought upon you, because you should know that it's just a trial of your faith. And your faith being tried works patience. Okay, it builds patience. That's what verse 3 is telling you. Okay, and patience is very important. Now, why is that? Let's look at verse 4. And it reads, but let patience have her perfect work. Now watch closely. That ye may be perfected and entire, wanting nothing. Okay, because patience, building patience is actually a way to perfect you as a person. Okay, because in order to endure all these temptations, you have to have patience as well. Okay, and notice the end of the verse says wanting nothing. Now, why is that? Because verse 2 talks about diverse temptations, meaning different types of temptations. And some of the temptations you may go through may be losing things or not getting things that you need or want. Okay, but if you have that patience, if that patience is built up, you won't want anything. You'll have need of, I won't say need, but you won't want anything. Okay, because you have that patience. Okay, you'll cleave unto the Most High, knowing that He's going to supply you with everything that you need. All right. So now, having said that, let's go back to Ecclesiasticus chapter 2, and let's pick back up where we left off at. All right. So this is Ecclesiasticus chapter 2, and let's start at the top of verse 4 again, and it reads, it says, whatsoever is brought upon thee, take cheerfully. And we just got the explanation of why. Now I want you to notice something in the last part of this verse. It says, and be patient when thou art changed to a low estate. Now I want to see if y'all are paying attention. Notice after he said, whatsoever is brought upon thee, take cheerfully, he immediately starts talking about patience. He's given the same exact message that James did. We just read it. James talked about how you're supposed to be joyful when you go through diverse temptations, because it's the trying of your faith that worketh patience. You got to understand that all the prophets, they pretty much gave the same message. Okay. Some may be a little worded differently. They may have put it in their own words, but ultimately all the prophets, they gave the exact same message. Okay. The Bible is one harmonious song. Okay. The prophets are in tune with one another. Okay. You can't look at this and say that Sirach is not giving the exact same message that we just read in James chapter 1. It's saying the exact same thing. Why would he immediately start talking about patience after he said, whatsoever is brought upon thee, take cheerfully? The same way that James did. It's the same message. Okay. So with that being said, let's get some more precepts on patience now. Okay, let's take a look at this. This is the book of James, chapter 5 and verse 10. And it reads, take, my brethren, the prophets who have spoken in the name of the Lord. Now watch closely. for an example of suffering, affliction, and of patience. Okay, so the prophets of old, the stories that's written about them are an example of suffering, affliction, and of patience. All right, that's what we're trying to get more understanding on, of patience. Now let's look at verse 11, and it reads, "Behold, we count them happy which endure." Now watch closely. It says, "Ye have heard of the patience of Job, and have seen the end of the Lord, that the Lord is very pitiful and of tender mercy." And again, that's why I said Job is the perfect example of what we were reading in Ecclesiasticus chapter 2. He pretty much lost everything. But in the end, because he endured temptation, because he built that patience, he got everything back that he lost, and then much more on top of that. All right. So now let's go back to Ecclesiasticus chapter 2, and let's pick back up where we left off. Okay. So this is Ecclesiasticus chapter 2 and verse 5. And it reads, "For gold is tried in the fire, and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity." So a comparison is being given. All right. The same way that gold is tried in the fire and is perfected by fire, it's the same way that we as people, as Israelites, we are perfected when we actually have to go through adversity, when we have to endure temptation. Okay, this is just Sirach really just giving an example of what he's been saying since verse 1. Okay, he's giving gold being tried in the fire as an example. All right. Now, the ultimate trial of our faith is ahead of us. Well, actually, it's upon us. We're actually in the beginning stages of it. And if you've been, watching my channel for a while now, you should already know what I'm alluding to. Okay. It's what's known as Jacob's trouble. It's going to be the ultimate trial of our faith as Israelites. Okay. In fact, let's go to it. Let's take a look at this. This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 30 and verse 7. And it reads, "Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble." Now watch this. "But he shall be saved out of it." All right. So, like I said before, if you've been a part of my channel for some time now, I've gone over this verse quite a bit. Okay. And Jacob's trouble is going to be a time like no other. All right. You're really going to have to exercise that patience, and you're going to have to cleave unto the Most High through faith. All right. In order to be saved out of it. And of course, you have the element of obedience, keeping the commandments. Faith and works coupled is what's going to get you delivered during that time known as Jacob's trouble. All right. But you have to have that faith, because we are going to be saved out of it, the hopeful elect. All right. So with that being said, keep in mind the end of this verse. It says, "But he shall be saved out of it." Because remember, Jacob's trouble is going to be the ultimate trial of our faith. Ultimately, that's how you're going to be saved out of it. And with that in mind, to prove that, let's pick back up where we left off at in Ecclesiasticus chapter 2. All right. So this is Ecclesiasticus chapter 2 and verse 6. Now watch closely. "Believe in him, and he will help thee." Let's pause. Now remember, in Jeremiah 30 and 7, It talked about how Jacob's trouble was going to be a time like no other. But then it said, but he shall be saved out of it. And I said what? That it's the ultimate trial of our faith. That faith is ultimately how you're going to be saved out of it. Now look at what is being said in Ecclesiasticus chapter 2 and verse 6. It says, believe in him, which is just another way of saying have faith, and he will help thee. This is how you're going to be saved out of Jacob's trouble. All right. But moving on, it says, order thy way aright and trust in him. Okay, what does that mean? Order thy way aright. Okay, let's get some understanding on that. Let's get the precepts. All right. So this is the book of Psalms, chapter 37 and verse 23. And it reads, now watch closely. The steps of a good man are ordered by Yahweh, and he delighteth in his way. So you see that? This is what we're trying to get the answer to. How do you order your steps aright? Well, the scripture says that the steps of a good man are ordered by Yahweh. Okay, so to order your steps aright, you have to be walking in line with the word of the Most High, Yahweh. Okay, that's how you order your steps aright. Okay, and actually what's very interesting about this verse, when you look it up, when you look up that term, a good man, okay, when you go to the concordance, it's actually the Hebrew word gabar, which means a mighty man or a warrior. Okay, that's really supposed to be the translations. It really should say the steps of a mighty man or the steps of a warrior are ordered by the Most High or ordered by Yahweh. Okay, I just found that interesting when you actually look it up. But the point being is the way that you order your steps are right, because that's what we were trying to find the answer to in Ecclesiasticus chapter 2 and verse 6. We were trying to find out, how do you order thy way aright? Well, we got the answer, and it's in Psalms 37 and 23. Okay, your steps are supposed to be ordered by Yahweh, and you do that by living by his word, by the words that are found in the Bible. Okay, so now let's go back to Ecclesiasticus chapter 2 and let's pick back up where we left off at. All right, so this is Ecclesiasticus chapter 2 and verse 7, and it reads, ye that fear the Lord, wait for his mercy, and go not aside, lest ye fall. So the middle of the verse says, wait for his mercy. Okay, so now let's take a look at this. Let's see whom the Most High's mercy is for. Okay, let's take a look at this. This is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 3 and verse 9, and it reads, they that put their trust in him shall understand the truth, and such as be faithful in love shall abide in him. Now watch closely. For grace and mercy is to his saints, and he hath care for his elect. Okay, so we see the word saints and elect being used interchangeably here. Okay, and we see that grace and mercy is to his saints. Okay, now according to the Bible, the saints, biblically defined, are the children of Israel. Okay, pursuant to Psalms 50 and 5, it's those that have made a covenant with him by way of sacrifice. Okay, and we know for a fact that his elect are the children of Israel. Okay, I believe that's also, if I'm not mistaken, Isaiah 45, and I believe round about the 4th or the 5th verse. You brothers can correct me if I'm wrong, but Israel is the Most High's elect. Okay, And that's who his mercy is for. In fact, I didn't add it in one of my slides, but I really should have put Isaiah chapter 14 as well. Starting in the first, I believe the first through the third verse, it says that he will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel. Okay, again, showing whom his mercy is for. All right. So now let's go back to Ecclesiasticus chapter 2 and let's pick back up where we left off at. All right. So this is Ecclesiasticus chapter 2 and the end of verse 7. And it reads, "And go not aside, lest ye fall." Now this is where you get the concept that came from Yahushua and Esdras about the straight and narrow gate. Okay, walking that straight and narrow path to get to the kingdom. Okay, you don't want to go aside. You have to stay on that straight and narrow path to make it to the kingdom, the straight gate, right? Esdras went on to say, when walking that straight and narrow path, it's danger on either side. Okay, he said that it's as if water is on one side and fire on the other. Okay, and one only path to make it to that city being the kingdom. Okay, so you don't want to go aside, because if you do, you're going to be destroyed. You won't make it, right? So moving forward, this is verse 8, and it reads, "Ye that fear the Lord, believe him, and your reward shall not fail." Okay, so the middle of the verse says, believe him. And then it ends by saying, and your reward shall not fail. Okay, so let's get the precept for that. All right, let's take a look at this. So this is the book of Hebrews, chapter 11 and verse 6. And it reads, "But without faith, it is impossible to please him." Remember, we read that faith is the beginning of cleaving unto him. Remember that? But anyway, moving forward, and watch closely. It says, "For he that cometh to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him." Now, there are a couple of things to point out here. Now, first, notice how it says, "For he that cometh to God must believe that he is." How do we start off the whole chapter of Ecclesiasticus chapter 2? It says, "When thou come to serve the Lord." Well, now here in Hebrews 11 and 6, it's still talking about the person that cometh to God, or cometh to serve the Lord. Okay. Well, in Sirach, it tells you have to prepare your soul for temptation. But we're seeing here something else you have to do when you come to God. Okay, you have to believe that he is. Okay, you have to have faith. Okay, faith is what's paramount. All right, I just found that interesting, right? But moving on, it says, "For he that cometh to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him." Now, this sounds awful familiar. Okay, it's the same thing that we read in Ecclesiasticus chapter 2 and verse 8. It says, "Believe him, and your reward shall not fail." Right? Well, Hebrews 11 and 6 says, "For he that cometh to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him." Okay, when you do those things, your reward is not going to fail when you have that belief. Okay, again, like I said before, all the men of the Lord, they pretty much gave the exact same message. Okay, some just worded a little differently. Okay, but it's saying the exact same thing. Okay, so from there, let's go back to Ecclesiasticus chapter 2, and let's pick back up where we left off at. All right. So this is Ecclesiasticus chapter 2 and verse 9. And it reads, "Ye that fear the Lord, hope for good," now watch closely, "and for everlasting joy and mercy." Okay. Now, where and when is this everlasting joy and mercy going to come to the children of Israel? Okay. It's not going to be on this side. All right. When we get this everlasting joy and mercy, it's going to be when we receive our salvation. Okay. It's going to be in the kingdom, right? You can experience some joy here and some mercy here. Okay. But it's not everlasting. All right. If it was everlasting right now, there would be no need for Yahushua to come back. Okay, we're going to receive this everlasting joy and mercy when we receive our salvation. Okay, when we receive the kingdom. All right, let's prove that. Let's take a look at this. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 45 and verse 17. And it reads, "But Israel shall be saved in Yahweh with an everlasting salvation. Ye shall not be ashamed, nor a confounded world without end." Okay. So we see in the beginning of this verse that Israel's salvation is everlasting. Okay. So, and within that everlasting salvation, that's where we're going to get this everlasting joy and mercy. Okay, that's what comes with salvation. Okay, and it's everlasting. All right, from here, let's take a look at this. This is the book of Revelation, chapter 21, and starting at verse 3. And it reads, "And I heard a great voice out of heaven, saying, Behold, the tabernacle of God is with men, and he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and God himself shall be with them and be their God." Okay, so who is this talking about? Okay, this is talking about the children of Israel. All right, before we make our point, let's prove that. Let's go to Ezekiel 37 and let's see the same exact thing being said, just more plainly about whom it's talking about. All right, let's take a look at this real quick and we're going to come back. All right. So this is the book of Ezekiel, chapter 37, starting at verse 26. And it reads, "Moreover, I will make a covenant of peace with them, and it shall be an everlasting covenant with them. And I will place them and multiply them, and will set my sanctuary in the midst of them forever." Okay, let's continue. Verse 27. "My tabernacle also shall be with them. Yea, I will be their God, and they shall be my people." This is the exact same thing that we just read in Revelation 21. Now it's going to be plain who is talking about. Look at the next verse, verse 28, and it reads, "And the heathen shall know that I, Yahweh, do sanctify Israel, when my sanctuary shall be in the midst of them," Israel, "forever." Okay, so now that we've established that is talking about Israel, when you hear this phraseology, okay, let's go back to Revelation 21 and let's pick back up. All right, so this is Revelation 21. Let's read verse 3 again, and it reads, "And I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, Behold, the tabernacle of God is with men, and he will dwell with them. Now we know who these men are. It says the tabernacle of God is with men. We know these men. It's talking about the children of Israel now. Okay. It says, and I will dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and God himself shall be with them and be their God. Now here's the point. It's in verse 4. Now remember, we're talking about this everlasting joy and mercy. Okay, and how it's only going to come when we receive the kingdom, when we receive our salvation. Now let's see what's part of this salvation when we receive the kingdom. What's going to happen? Verse 4, and it reads, it says, and God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes. That's everlasting joy. No more sorrow. Okay. Reading it again. It says, and God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow, nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. Okay, so this is an example of that everlasting joy and mercy that we read about in Ecclesiasticus chapter 2 and verse 9. Okay, we're going to get that everlasting joy and mercy when we receive our salvation in the kingdom. All right. But anyway, that was Ecclesiasticus chapter 2, part 1. And of course, there's 18 verses in Ecclesiasticus chapter 2. And we did the first 9 verses. Okay, and that's part 1. And what we'll do, we'll finish it up in part 2 and do the last 9 verses in part 2. All right. But what I'll try and do right now is 2:50 a.m. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to try and upload part 1 right now. And later on today, Lord willing, I'll record and upload part 2 later on today. Lord willing. All right. So with that, and as always, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, which is the name of the Heavenly Father, Bahashem, meaning in the name of Yahweh Shai, which is the name of his only begotten Son. Okay. And I want to thank all you brothers and sisters for tuning in. And I hope this video was informative and edifying. And until next time, Shalom family, and I'll see you in part 2. Shalom.